Good afternoon. Welcome to the Omni Coalition News Show, aka TOCNS. This show is an amalgam of strange, weird, bizarre, off-the-wall, and otherwise things you don't normally see anymore from those news sources these days. During a time of political overabundance and divisiveness, we present you with more unifying topics to discuss for the most part. For links to the articles, the music done by Carrera, and anything else potentially interesting, check the underbar of the description below. I just ran up the stairs to make it, so that's why I'm out of breath. Anyway, I am Xander, and today is Moon's Day, aka Monday, December 5th, 2022. So, let's get into the news, shall we? Let me catch my breath. From Rebel News, we have Canadian Armed Forces veterans offered assisted suicide instead of support programs. What? So, you send them off to go die for the country, and those who don't die are offered suicide rather than any actual help. Wonderful. Canadian veterans are being offered medical assistance in dying made by Veterans Affairs caseworkers instead of the help they need. Podcaster and Canadian Armed Forces CAF veteran Mark Meinke blew the lid off the scandal after fellow veterans confided in him that caseworkers at the federal agency tasked with making sure CAF members can access to support programs were instead offering them medical assistance in dying. Wow. I mean, I've heard about stuff like this, but now this is getting big. At least half a dozen have come forward to tell their stories, including the most recent retired Corporal Christine Gauthier, who competed for Canada at the 2016 Rio de Janeiro Paralympics and the Invictus Games. That's who I heard about it. I was browsing Meme Droid last night, and I caught that. It was the Paralympics. I believe this is her. It says, Gauthier testified before the House of Commons Veterans Committee Thursday and agreed to provide a copy of the letter wherein she was offered assisted suicide and the tools to complete the task from a Veterans Affairs caseworker rather than the home wheelchair that she was asking for. Wow. That is... I have no words. That is just absolutely appalling. Wow. Well, here's the argument I have for you, and this is not original to me. I saw this once again from Meme Droid the other day. If you don't believe, all of the conspiracy people and all that stuff, if you don't believe that all of this is under intelligent design, tell me, how would they be doing things differently if it was under intelligent design? If you don't believe it already is. Answer that question. So... this is just absolutely disgusting. So, for more reading on this, as with every other article I'm going to cover here today, please refer to the underbar, the description. The links to all of these articles are down there. We're going to move on up here. More from Rebel News. Chinese state-sponsored cyber criminals stole more than $20 million in U.S. COVID relief funds. Oh my God. U.S. Secret Service officials confirmed an NBC News report on Monday alleging that cybercriminals from China tied to the Communist Party of China, CCP, stole nearly $20 million worth of funds intended for COVID pandemic relief. That is not surprising at all. What do you want to bet it was handed to them? According to NBC, law enforcement officials and cybersecurity experts who spoke under the condition of anonymity, I can't ever pronounce that word right, said that the heist is the first publicly acknowledged example of theft, theft linked to a foreign government. Wow. At least on paper, yeah. Officials who described the group as APT-41 called it a Chinese state-sponsored cyber threat group that is highly adept at conducting espionage missions and financial crimes for personal gain, in quotes, that operates in the city of Chengdu. Apartment 41, which is also known as Winty, Barium, and Wicked Panda, allegedly stole the COVID funds in mid-2020 from around 2,000 accounts tied to more than 40,000 financial transactions, including loans from the Small Business Administration and unemployment insurance funds in at least a dozen states. For further reading, please refer to the underbar. Give these people the foot traffic. They've made the article. I'm just reading this. That is... oh, man. That is crazy. So, we're going to move on up here. More from Rebel News. Canada is now world famous for suiciding the young, the old, the weak, and the poor. And not surprising at all. We have different beliefs here at Rebel News, according to my source here. I like to talk about topics like the trucker convoy, lockdowns, federal politics, free speech, and foreign affairs in the United States, China, and elsewhere. Other reporters covered Cover other beats. Sheila Gunride, our chief reporter, covers Western issues and firearms, but she also covers life issues too, as in government snuffing out life. And unfortunately, in Canada, that's happening a lot. It's crazy stuff. Government doctors are deciding they won't give a woman an organ transplant because she won't get jabbed, effectively sentencing her to death. Imagine being a doctor, signing up the do no harm principle, the Hippocratic Oath, and you're voting essentially to sentence someone to death by denying them life-saving treatment. Doctors can be angels or they can be angels of death. So, yep, I'm going to read this another one here. That's what they called Dr. Josef Mengele, the Angel of Death. He really was a doctor who really did atrocious medical experiments on concentration camp victims in Nazi Germany. I heard about that. Okay, so let's get on to the actual, like, what happened. The company's CEO calls himself, quote, chief merchant, end quote, but he's actually a merchant of death. I'm not sure if he thinks he can sell more clothes by being known as the pro-homicide fashion designer. Okay, so this is an opinion piece, but I'm trying to get to the actual meat of this story here. It's not just veterans, it's people who are in pain, depressed, or just having a rough go of it, but sometimes it's just people who are poor. Imagine thinking it's better to kill yourself than to be poor. Yeah, that's awful. So, but the headline, I believe, gave the entire story right there. Actually, yeah. But this is just more awful stuff. I mean, remember like what we were talking about with the veteran thing at the top of the show here. Let's move on up here. More from Rebel News. Computer store owner who owned Hunter Biden's laptop is vindicated by Elon Musk's Twitter files. Huh. It says John Paul Mac Isaac, the computer store owner who legally possessed Hunter Biden's laptop, says that he has been vindicated by Elon Musk's release of the Twitter files. As reported by the New York Post, to which he provided the laptop's hard drive that resulted in the bombshell report on Joe Biden's son's dealing with foreign governments, Mac Isaac said he was grateful for the Twitter files, which he says vindicated him. Quote, I'm grateful. I don't know how many people know, but I basically was financially ruined by Twitter last year. I tried to save my career because Twitter labeled my actions hacking, end quote, said John Paul Mac Isaac in interviews on Sunday on Fox News. Another quote here, so obviously watching Elon release the material Friday night was very exciting for me because what I felt like I knew the whole time was true, and I feel vindicated, end quote, he said. Mac Isaac sued Twitter for defamation before Musk bought it. So that's a wild ride right there, you know? Like, as the saying goes, what's the difference between a conspiracy and the conspiracy theory and the truth? About 6 months, you know? So, anyway, we're going to move on up here. More from Rebel News. If you dare show up at a Trudeau event as an independent journalist, expect Trudeau's thugs to get handy with you. This appears to be like another opinion piece here, so let's see here. We get your letters every minute of every day, and you had plenty to say about Justin Trudeau's Royal Canadian Mountain Henchmen looking like the Argos defensive line by once again physically preventing Prime Minister Blackface McGopher from hearing any insensitive questions from Rebel News. Is that really his name? What is this Blackface McGroper? I'm missing something here, I have a feeling. Goes on here to say, and if you dare show up to a Trudeau event as an independent journalist, we'll expect Trudeau's thugs to get handsy with you. What a disgrace. In any event, you had plenty to say about this latest affront to freedom of the press. So, it sounds like they're being physically accosted and whatnot. Welcome to the show, Miss Luli. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm good. Sorry, muted.
That's all right. But yeah, as I was saying here on this, like, you just popped in right as I was talking about it here. Apparently, it seems that anyone who's not in the immediate affiliation with the current leader of Canada, those journalists get physically barred from, participating in certain events and whatnot. So that's, here we go.
Here we go.
Yep. Gonna move on up here. More from Rebel News. Seattle votes to permanently terminate 80 police positions despite critically low staffing levels and record-breaking homicides. Yep, as I said, all of this is by design. You really think people who are stupid enough to be doing this would have been able to even get in the government to begin with? So, Seattle City Council voted this week to permanently remove 80 Seattle police positions despite critically low staffing levels and a record-breaking increase in homicides throughout the city. On Tuesday, Seattle City Council approved their 2022-2023 budget, which rerouted funds that were initially reserved for hiring 200 positions in the Seattle Police Department. Council slashed 80 of those positions, leaving the department with a budget for only 120, according to Seattle Times. However, it is going to be a particularly challenging task for the Seattle Police Department to come even remotely close to hiring 120 police personnel when officers are leaving the department in droves as the city continues their war on police. More than 500 officers have left the department since the notorious Defund the Police movement back in 2020 following the death of Floyd George, and more are on their way out the door. And I remember that one time the entire SWAT team, the Special Weapons and Tactics, the entire SWAT team just walked out. Like, I think, that was either Seattle or Portland. I don't remember. I think it was Portland, actually. I don't know. But, this is not good. Get out. Move. Leave Seattle. Anyone of any sound mind and body. So, anyway, we've got 2 more here from Rebel News. I know we have a lot from Rebel News today, but it's, anyway, exclusive 1/3. So this is the first third of the interview. Funeral director shares his shocking pandemic experiences. Says here, John O'Looney, Looney, is an undertaker who worked throughout the pandemic in Milton Keynes, UK. Pardon me. Beginning in 2021, John started to notice something wasn't right with what he was seeing and began to investigate matters himself. What he discovered has since been echoed by other funeral directors, or funeral directions and embalmers around the world. When the Kung Flu vaccine rollout began in January 2021 and was increased throughout the preceding 2 years, the recommended age for the vaccination was lowered until eventually the entire adult population of the UK was recommended to take the new experimental, pokey. John O'Looney and other undertakers started noticing that as the Fauci rollout began to be opened up to younger age groups, the numbers of deaths within that cohort was increasing. Suddenly, adult death syndrome, SADS, or sudden adult death syndrome, had previously been an extremely rare phenomenon, but since the prune juice rollout has become more common. John O'Looney believes what he has discovered in the bodies of the poked deceased might shine light on the increased rates of sad strokes, heart attacks, and other autoimmune diseases we are seeing around the world. His discovery was made with embalming the deceased. He found arteries clogged with clot-like substances similar to the appearance and texture of silicone sealant. So, as it's been said around, the horn, as we all know, it goes in there and changes your RNA. It actively changes the chemical and physical structure of your body to make you be more susceptible to everything, to shut you down, to kill you. It is a lethal injection, but on a ticking clock. So, more or less. Not 100% guaranteed, but, a decent amount of numbers enough for it to be a problem. So, yeah. Anyway, we're going to go up more from Rebel News here, our last article here. Jacinta Ardern's New Zealand government admits it has Facebook censorship tool. We have here, the New Zealand government has been forced to admit it has partner access to Facebook's controversial censorship portal. Jacinta Ardern's government has special access to the portal through which it can directly flag content it does not like, officially known as disinformation with Facebook admins. News of the government's special arrangement with Facebook came in response to a New Zealand Official Information Act, OIA, request for clarification about the state's relationship with the social media platform. The OIA's response confirmed the Department of Internal Affairs had access to the portal, but, quote, we cannot advise if any other government agency has access to the takedown portal, end quote. Well, that's frightening. So they can go in there and start flagging things in a special program, so Facebook will notice it. So they're not just flagging things as a normal account; they're flagging things as a unique account. And George Orwell, man, he knew what was coming. We're going to move on up here from Oddity Central, finally getting out of Rebel News. Oddity Central here. This organization would like the human race to voluntarily go extinct. The voluntary human extinction movement has been trying to convince mankind to go gentle into that good night for over 30 years. Wow. Founded in 1991 by Les Unite. Oh, wow, what a name. A U.S. environmental activist, voluntary human extinction movement, VHEM, believes that humanity is, quote, incompatible with the biosphere, end quote, and that human extinction is the best solution to some of the most pressing environmental issues plaguing our planet. There are already 8 billion of us, and at the rate we're going to render our species extinct anyway, but not before doing so to millions of other species of plants and animals. And if the outcome is going to be the same for us, why not at least save other species that would actually thrive without us? I mean, that is some very solid argument right there, and the only thing I can say is humanity as a genome needs to evolve beyond what is holding us back, and even in some aspects what makes us human. We don't need it with technology or chemicals or science or medicine or any of that. We need it on a spiritual level. You know, within our genome, within our consciousness, within our soul, we need to evolve beyond, you know, our own, you know, limitations if we're going to survive as a species. So I can't argue with this, with what this guy is saying. I'm not going to join VHM, you know, but I can't argue against him. It continues on here. Many followers of the VHM ideology believe that, quote, the worst environmental crime any individual can commit is making more people, end quote. I can't argue with that either. And while that notion may sound preposterous, Les Unite and other like-minded people have some arguments to back it up. Apart from our destructive nature in relation to other species and our planet in general, there is also the issue of not being able to look after members of our own species. I mean, like I was talking about earlier, you know, those veterans being offered assisted suicide rather than actual, like, help. Like, I don't know. Crazy. Like, the times we live in today are going to be pivotal for the next 1,000 years. You know, if not forever. You know, like, there are a few moments in history, you know, where it's a pivotal turning point, and I believe this may be it. This next upcoming year, 2023, humanity is going to see things it has never seen before, to certain degrees and in conjunctions. So, buckle up, buckaroo. Gonna move on up here. More from Audio Central. Man buys 300 iPhones from Apple Store, gets robbed minutes later. Alright, well, I can't feel sorry for him. He's an Apple fanboy, so kind of serves him right. A New York man who bought 300 iPhones from the Apple flagship store on Fifth Avenue was reportedly robbed just moments after walking out of the store. In a world where basically anything can be ordered online, a man decided to buy 300 iPhones at a physical Apple store in Manhattan at 1:45 in the morning and walk around with a few branded Apple bags like it was no big deal. What can go wrong? Well, as you probably already guessed by the rating title, the man got robbed while making his way back to the car, losing 125 smartphones worth approximately $95,000. Oh my god. You know, like, yeah, that's just stupid. But, you know, you can't expect anything intelligent from Apple fan people, really, you know, especially in today's day and age with how everything's going. Anybody who supports Apple deserves what's coming to them. Sorry, you know. And I know a couple people, I don't know who they are, but I know some people are Apple fans, and hey, you know, say it to their face. I don't care, you know. We're going to move on up here from the Mirror. Exclusive here to the Mirror. Quote, I spent 24 hours as a bin worker. One mistake every house makes, and the grossest part, end quote. So let's hear about this. It's pitch black, wet, and miserable outside as I get dressed into my bright orange overalls and with heavy steel toe cap boots. Waking up at 4:30 in the morning was out of the ordinary for me, but for the Bristol Waste crew, it's just a typical morning shift. Stepping foot into the depot, I'm adamant it was the worst weather possible to spend a day in the life of the recycle bin worker, but driver loader Simon Bohan, at the age of 45, told me I actually got lucky. That's not me, that I'm reading from, so whoever wrote this article, Nia Dalton. So, quote, at least it's not very windy. Emptying a box of plastic in gale force winds is almost impossible, and it's even worse in the summer when it's hot, end quote, he says. No matter the temperature, the crew has a duty to empty the city's bins, come rain or shine, or even when there's a pandemic in the air. Quote, "We were on the front line during COVID and the public really appreciated it," in quotes, loader Dave McKenna at the age of 47 told her proudly. While the dangers of the virus were unknown, Simon and Dave were among 600 other staff members continuing to risk their lives due to their jobs, so today's rain shower really is nothing to them. Actually, if anything, the rain would be good because it would keep everything, weighed down and all that stuff. And yeah, if anybody's gonna get, gonna contract this kung flu, it would be, waste management disposal units, like people who work in this industry, because they're handling everybody's garbage. So at some point they are touching, something contaminated. Guaranteed. Absolutely guaranteed. That's, I have 5 notifications. Who wants me so hard on Discord? Okay. Alright. Anyway, we're gonna move on up here. More from the Mirror. Vandals smash windows and spray paint move on cars parked on pavement as locals divided. I can't blame them for doing that. Cars parked on a pavement in Greater Manchester have been spray painted with the word "move" and had their windows smashed by vandals in an overnight rampage. Residents woke up this morning to find the carnage on their street in Leigh, with some posting photos on Facebook. At least 3 vehicles appear to be affected by the overnight vandalism. The incident has sparked discussion about pavement parking in the comments under the pictures, with some suggesting the cars were targeted because of their placement on pavements. But others have lashed out at the vandalism, calling it appalling, reports Manchester Evening News. So, if they're blocking something, they shouldn't be parking there. So, I don't know the full story. I don't know exactly, what's going on. And I don't know the culture. I'm completely foreign to the basis of this news article. Sucks for the owners. It really does. But maybe be more considerate where you're parking. Most people don't randomly just start smashing windows, and spray painting your car with "move." And that tells me either somebody got so pissed off that they went and bought spray paint and went and got some, or maybe, these are in a very inconvenient spot and it was happening so often that somebody finally snapped and just grabbed their spray paint from home or bought some and then went there. So this is not something that just happened. There's a build up to this. So I don't know though. As far as culture and whatnot, there definitely is a build up to this. But I don't know the exact semantics. But let's move on up here. More from the Mirror. Boris Becker set to be deported to Germany next week after hiding £2.5 million in fraud case. Boris Becker is set to be deported to Germany next week after having served less than 8 months of his 2.5-year sentence. The 3-time Wimbledon winner at the age of 54 was jailed in April for hiding £2.5 million worth of assets in a bankruptcy fraud case. He is being held in HMP Hunter Combe in Oxfordshire, where foreign nationals are detained ahead of deportation. Boxer is expected to return to Germany next week and will not have to serve his remaining sentence. He has qualified for a fast-track scheme that sends criminals to their home countries before their release date in an effort to reduce pressure on British jails and save money. Okay, well that's cool. So just send him back to his home nation and have them deal with it. That makes sense. Now that I think about it, the concept of having foreign detainees, unless it's a checkpoint thing or something like that, but it's a little weird, especially a somewhat long term, 2.5 years is a long amount of time, but yeah, Anyway, we're gonna move on up. More from the Mirror. New train strike dates announced as rail workers walk out on Christmas Eve. Oh God, here we go. So anybody who in the UK, I believe this is the RMT Royal something. I don't know. Let's just read this. Last-minute festive travelers could face disruption after their rail union members announce a new strike from 6 p.m. on Christmas Eve. The RMT union will tell its members at Network Rail, who maintain the track, not to work from 6 p.m. on December 24th until 6 a.m. on December 27th. Christmas Day and Boxing Day have barely any trains anyway, but the action will kick in a few hours before the normal times for trains on December 24th. Union officials insisted it would have a very limited impact on passengers because it is designed to target engineering works on network rail, and rail firms are not striking on December 24th to 27th. It comes on top of the RMT's planned strikes at both Newark Rail and 14 train companies on December 13th, 14th, 16th, 17th, and January 3rd, 4th, 6th, and 7th. The December 24th to 27th strikes are at Norfolk Rail only. RMT General Secretary Mike Lynch said, "We got no choice," after his union rejected train companies' very poor offer of a 4% pay raise only 2 years in a row. Well, be happy you're getting a pay raise, but sucks for people who rely on the rail to get to places. So at least they're letting us or them know beforehand so they can plan accordingly. We're gonna move on up here to UPI or UPI. Australian charity lines up gifts for Guinness World Record. Interesting. A Queensland, Australia charity attempted a Guinness World Record by arranging 1,050 gift-wrapped presents into an unbroken line. The Christmas Presents for Kids in Care charity gathered hundreds of donated gifts at the Upper Coomera Centre in Queensland, Gold Coast region. Donors were invited to join the record attempt and physically place their donations into the line. Charity director Mel Bosenberg said there were a total of 1,050 gifts in the final line. He said evidence is being submitted to Guinness World Records to make the achievements official. The gifts will be distributed to children in a residential care for the holidays. Alright, well that's cool. Have some fun with it, And that's really cool. I hope they did break it. And if they didn't, I wonder what the longest line of a, gift chain actually is. We're going to move on up here. From NPR, how Goblin Mode became Oxford's Word of the Year. It's mindlessly binge-watching television without worrying about the time. It's eating snacks in bed without a care about leftover crumbs. And it's wearing the same pair of pajamas all week while working from home. Welcome to Goblin Mode. Okay, that now makes sense. The slang term is defined as, quote, a type of behavior which is unapologetically self-indulgent, lazy, slovenly, or greedy, typically in a way that rejects social norms or expectations, end quote. So basically everyone in 2020. This year, Oxford Languages, the creator of the Oxford English Dictionary, titled Goblin Mode as the 2022 Word of the Year, meaning it best reflected the ethos and mood of the past 12 months. More like past 24 to 36, my friend. But, yeah. So, yeah, people are embracing their inner goblin. 2020 was the 2020 word of the year was like no other, Go to the link in the underbar. Give this a read. This is really interesting. Anyway, that is going to conclude the show. Once again, you can check the underbar, the description, for any links you may find interesting, including but not limited to all things Omni Coalition. For your dose of different, odd, and otherwise unknown news, we stream Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific Time, which is 3 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Central, and 5 p.m. Eastern, respectively. For all you and all of us, I was Aoxander, and for a little while we had the Lulikins in the live studio audience. Anyway, until you catch us tomorrow, or if you're interested in history, we have a history show every day at 10 in the morning Pacific Time. Anyway, until you see us next time, until then, don't forget to look right and left at every intersection, rate 5 thumbs, and subscribe. Toodles!